attending conferences, meetings, and everything. It's really becoming the master program of everyone.
Just want to chat. No pressure. This chat function.
Yes.
So, oh, okay. I see it here. I just want to test everything.
On the right side, yeah.
Yeah.
Where is the chat?
Just click on the chat and.
Okay.
Hi Adele. I hope you're not driving while.
I am not driving. I'm waiting for the others, and they went to the shop, so I'm joining the meeting so long. How are you guys?
Fantastic. How are you, Adele?
Good,
Okay.
good.
Hi.
Hi, hi. How's it, Tony?
How are you?
All good, all good. See, I don't know if you're saying Tony or Sony.
Tony. Tony.
Just Tony. Yeah. No comment. Are you going shopping?
Me. Now I'm waiting for the others. They are shopping. I'm joining you guys.
Now I have a big screen. I
So Nupresh, where can you see? Nupresh, where can you see how many people have registered? Oh, I see 7 participants. No.
7, yeah. But it's also on that local is Lekker group live. People who just want to see how it works, if they want to ask some questions or something. I'm just testing it out. It actually works very cool.
Okay, but I still can't see I can see chat. Someone wanna chat. There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Loud and clear, LB.
I couldn't find the chat button as well, so but I'm finding.
Yeah, but this is good if you have 6 or 10 people talking and the others can follow up on Facebook.
So Nupresh, how many people can be live at once, face-wise?
100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think Namibian internet will support that.
What, Namibians?
No, the Namibian
internet. Well, I was on a webinar last night. Well, what is today? Friday? No, it was Wednesday night. And we, it was from South Africa. They did a photography bird thing and there were 100 people and it was stable the whole time.
But you know, the best way to organize in a webinar with 100 people is you mute, and then you select one person who can be able to unmute people when they have to speak. That way it's gonna work much better.
Say that again.
When you have too many participants on a webinar, like right now, just mute the rest of the people that they cannot be able to speak, and then you select only one person who can be able to speak, and it's gonna be much easier.
Yeah, that's when 1 or 2 people are speaking.
That's fine, but what about if somebody wants to intervene? How can he intervene?
There's a place where you can, I don't see it here, but you can raise your hand. And once you raise your hand, the main speaker is gonna get you, and then it's gonna give you the opportunity to speak.
And only the host can then unmute. Only the host can unmute you then.
Yes. But it works so perfectly this morning that we had an webinar with American agent of mine, and with all the team, and there were like 45 on one video calls like right now, and it was perfect.
Okay, now the technicality, Nupresh, what I try to figure out is why are you clear and Joseph not? I don't want to
One
because
answer to that.
He's
is
in
it the
hiding.
connection in Moscow or what?
Moi, je vois rien.
I think my connection is quite good.
Your
It's just I'm not using my headphone.
face is
I'm tired
blurry.
of my ears. There are too many things this morning.
It's the smog in Walvis Bay. The fog.
I'm eating lobsters. I'm eating lobsters and oysters.
Oh, and he has to tell us.
Okay, Nupresh, you also said something that the maximum time of such a webinar is
It's,
40 minutes, free of charge.
It's 40 minutes if it's free one, yes. Otherwise, it's 24 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody's watching it on Facebook Live.
I've got it on Facebook Live.
That's why it's repeating the words.
Must I search it on another place then?
No, I mean, if you're here, then you don't need Facebook Live. That's just, we're just testing it out.
Okay.
I see. One can also post a comment just to you or to everyone. This is something.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do private.
Okay.
Private message.
And if you go to Facebook Live, it's also about 12 people watching now and they're commenting, and it's actually, it's quite easier to do it that way.
What are they commenting? Because there's not really something constructive happening, but they know we're testing, no?
Yeah, they know we're testing. It's just for fun.
Oh, okay.
Heinrich Hafeni Tourism is watching.
Oh, Henrik Afeni. Good afternoon, Afeni.
I want to see if he wants to come in.
Let me post this. I can actually post this one on the page.
Nupresh, there's a button, a green button, which says share screen. What will happen
So
if
you're doing a presentation, so if whatever is open on your screen, people, if you're showing some demo of an app or something.
Yeah.
Salut Caroline.
Bonjour, ça va?
Oui, très bien. Toi, tu es là, tu nous regardes, tu ne dis rien.
Ben non, j'attends, j'ai bien juste d'arriver, donc. Hello everybody.
Oui, mais tu peux dire quand même bonjour à tout le monde.
Yes.
Ça va, ça fait très longtemps. Hein.
Eh ouais.
Sven, is that you? Looks like Sven.
Ah, Sven is coming in.
Yes, Sven is connecting audio. There is Haiku just joined.
Oh, yes, Sven.
And
did you seriously change your background, Haiku?
Yeah, don't you think it's nice?
He's supposed to be in a lockdown.
I'd much rather be sitting in an airplane right now, but I can tell you that our country is definitely doing a very good job in terms of their lockdown control. So in Karabib, there were at least 30 cars in line. Oh no, 30 trucks, and they were not budging or moving anything. If you don't have a permit, you can forget it. So it's awesome. But I'm safe.
Where were all those cars going, Aiko?
A lot of it was going to towards Windhoek direction, and the rest of it was coming down to towards Swakop. But that red line that they did in the presentation is they're very strict on that especially that hotline that, like we called it, from Karabib, Omaru, Ochibaranga, and so on, that's literally NDF controlled. It's not even the roadblock like we had in Swakop. So yeah, it's quite strict. It's very good.
Yeah, that's well, congratulations to the government. Huh? At least it can
Yeah.
show that they are putting a lot of efforts in fighting the COVID-19.
That's true. No, that is absolutely true.
How do you, oh, there.
Who are we?
Hey, here's Sven. I just unmuted him.
Yep, Sven is here.
Hmm. Good afternoon, Swain.
Hi, who are you? Joseph, yes, no, I can see. Sorry.
Oh, it's cool. We are waiting for Alexandro to unmute himself, or is it Sonny who has
We
to
can
unmute
unmute him. No, they can do it themselves, but I'm going to unmute them and see if it works.
Yeah, just that I'm working, just don't want to create an unnecessary noise in the background. Just waiting for you guys to start.
Well, we have started. There's nothing official.
We're just waiting.
Right.
I've just got a WhatsApp from Yvonne as well. Yvonne, she's going to jump in just now. There's a couple of other people. I think everybody's on a very big learning curve. So that's probably why a lot of people are still trying to get in. But hey, the platform's awesome.
So basically, one can log in at any time during if it's a real webinar. Is there, and you're late, can you log in at a specific time, or will it then confuse the whole setup?
No, you can set it up either way. You can either have it on all the time or whenever you want it.
Just so long there's not more than 100 people.
Yes.
Okay, what are we experiencing in the tourism industry, if I may ask the group? Can someone please just share the experience on this on the country and regarding to the COVID-19 pandemic? I think we can start from there. Our experiences when it's regard to COVID-19. What are we learning from it?
Who's gonna go first?
I think Maureen.
Ah, I thought it's an informal thing. What can we learn from it?
It's just, yeah, it doesn't have to be, nobody will hold you officially to that.
I think every day is a learning curve because every day something new comes up which you did not consider the day before. And I think everybody must currently just focus on himself and just get your own act together and try to get your own situation organized and prepared, and don't focus too much on what is expected of you. And but I think one must be careful now because this is not an internal thing. But I think because it's difficult to give a real outlook on how long it's going to last. But from my point of view, I think we must be prepared to have a difficult time ahead of at least till the end of the year, if not longer.
There we go. Yeah, we've been in contact with a lot of, because we work with a lot of agencies from abroad, obviously going from Spain to Italy to France, and then obviously Netherlands and Germany as well. We've had a lot of time, obviously, and also a lot of people in industry that then have the time to share platforms and discussions and all those things on what's going on. And yeah, one of the guys in Europe the other day said the biggest mistake we would be making now is to actually thinking we're able to make a plan with what is going to happen, because at the moment the biggest thing that nobody knows is nobody knows what is going to happen. When is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? Matthias shared some insights into the stuff that's going to happen in Germany now. That's quite interesting. But the fact of the matter is the international travel is basically so restricted at the moment that yes, we can be well prepared for where they're going to go and what they're going to do, because there is still going to remain that market. But it's a no man's land at this point in time. I don't know how you guys are experiencing, but that's at least the information we're getting from abroad.
Yeah, no one can predict, right? I agree. Difficult times.
Yeah, I think the
I mean,
biggest
even
thing
if,
is, yeah.
I think even if Africa opens up for our, I mean, we don't have that many cases and we still depend on a lot of other countries for the tourism.
Yeah.
Yes, if I can say something, we have to check. Our problem will be also the South African, because most of the tourists travel through South Africa, and now it's picking up quite for the last 3 days. Every day, it's more and more cases in South Africa, so it can be soon a problem.
Yeah, right.
So the prices rates are increasing in South Africa when it comes to flight. It's what you mean, Carol.
No, I mean the case of COVID.
Oh, the case of COVID, yeah.
Yeah, now it's 2,600 person who was the last figures, and 43 deaths. But every day it's like for the last 3 days, every day is 100 more cases of people tested positive, and death is 10 more people this morning from yesterday. And we are like in the curve, like the same as it was like in Italy. So it started slowly and now it's making like that.
Yeah.
So even if it's getting better in Europe, let's say in 2 months, if it's getting worse in Southern Africa, the people will still be very scared to travel.
So it's a
yeah.
I guess it's a learning curve for everybody, and the experience which we are experiencing right now, it's a little bit massive, but at the same time, it's a turning point for some of us to learn and look backwards at what we have been doing as business people, because we have never experienced this before. And when we experienced the Ebola, we had all the tourists who could not go to Kenya, they could come to Namibia, but now this is a world pandemic, of which, for me personally, I think it's a learning point. It's a turning point of which I have to learn how to control my business and how to run my business in a way that should something like this happen, you must not only rely on the same business, but you can be able to have other resources of which can be possible to be invested on what you are gaining at the moment with the tourism industry.
Joseph, you're quite right with what you're saying there. The biggest problem we have with a pandemic like this, and especially also with circumstances like lockdown, circumstances like the industry stopping, is, and a lot of people are only noticing that now from industry, is the ripple effect. A lot of people forgot about the ripple effect, and it was within a matter of now it's been 21 days, the next 3 weeks have now obviously started as well, is people don't realize how that ripple effect literally, it pulls straight through to the country. And that's why the importance of curving this thing to such a degree where new measures can be implemented, not only for tourism, but for the industry as a whole, can start getting done as soon as possible. And whether it's the NCCIs, whether it's the government itself, whether it's business people in other industries and sectors as well, everybody's taking that punch now. And we've done some due diligence in speaking to petrol stations, grocery stores. Some, obviously the non-essentials are all standing at complete standstill, but those that are even in the essential work or doing the essential work, they are scared. They are literally scared, and they've dropped their business by about 50%. And that in an economic environment, in an economic environment such as Namibia, point one, and also with our, whether it's our job statistics, whether it's our income statistics and so on, it's an immeasurable knock. If you're lucky enough to have the resources at this point in time to keep yourself going, then you're lucky, but that'll also only last so long. We forget about the homeless. We forget about the people that are in lockdown, are in standstill. We forget about people, whether it's here and abroad, that have just invested into their businesses. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars of people that have invested into their business, because 2020 is going to be this year for our environment and our tourism. It was tourism and also some others. And now that ripple effect has pulled through to every sector, and now everything is at a standstill. So everybody's at panic stations. the biggest thing we can do is we need to keep the faith and we need to keep the motivation going. And that's literally what Namibia needs at this point in time. We've gone through so much, but motivation, motivation, motivation. If anybody tells you now sell something or do business or whatever, there is no business at this point in time. If you're lucky enough to find the 1 to 2% of people within the market that will actually go and say book now, pay now, and then travel later on a voucher basis, then you're lucky if there are still those people. But everybody at this point in time has pulled up the handbrake completely and said, okay, hands off completely. We're now literally only seeing what's going to happen. So that's the big thing. Now, we are one of the few countries in the world, statistically speaking, and Rupesh has obviously shared with everybody all the information, not only the economical impacts, but also our health statistics. And the factor there is that we are privileged to be able to call ourselves Namibians in the sense of we are the most isolated, one of the most isolated countries in the world. And that makes us immensely, immensely attractive to a niche environment and a niche market. And it's never the one thing also, and I don't want to sound negative, but I'll just keep on because we had info sessions on this yesterday and this morning as well. The biggest thing and the biggest reality we need to face is that nothing will ever be the same again as what it was. The biggest changes at this point in time is the factor that it's a global reset. That's the reality of the factor, and we need to be very, very selective about how we approach the future. Even countries abroad are selectively going to open up again. So it's not going to be, oh, okay, well, lockdown's done. Cheers, guys, everything's open. It's going back to normal again. That'll not happen. That'll literally not happen. But it will. And then there's the scare. There's a fear factor in everybody. We've spoken to a lot of clients that have traveled, still want to travel. In the last 3 weeks, we've spoken to almost 300 different clients. And the general idea is, yeah, I'd like to do it, but I'm too afraid to do it now, or even if it opens up again. So for us, that's obviously bad news, but it's a reality. And out of those, say, 300 people that we did in this little study that we had, only, say, 10%, so it's 30 to 40 people maybe, that said, no, as soon as we can, we will want to go. So there are those people that will definitely want to do it. And those are the people we need to make it most attractive for, to say, yes, guys, we're going to be doing it. So that's where we need to keep the faith, selling the isolation we have here, getting away from chaos, streaming motivation into the industry. That's going to be our winning key. So, okay, I've babbled enough now. Stop me if I talk too much, Rupesh, and I haven't even had a glass of wine yet.
It's very much educative. It's really informative what you are saying, and it's good that you are here to share it. John, hi, John.
Sorry.
Hi, Joseph. How's everybody?
All right.
Hi.
Yes, Albie.
I just want to know, it seems as if you have put a lot of thought into this. Do you have any ideas how we can do this? I mean, some of us, like myself, we are totally dependent on what we get from tourism, which is now a zero income at the moment.
18 hours.
Albie, are you still there?
We there?
No, I see Albie was mid-sentence. Okay, but she'll probably come back in a few minutes.
On the map as fast as possible. But is there any ideas maybe?
Albie, at the moment, the biggest problem we face with regards to that, if we take the general feel of the people locally as well, it's again, there are some factors that are just so realistic that they are going to sound negative, and that reality that we are facing at the moment is that there is no way in which we can create something at this point in time within industry where we can say, wow, this is going to have this major saving grace for us. Because I'm going to again refer to this ripple effect that is going through to other businesses. businesses like, I'll take your normal local spa. I mean, with the limitation of only 10 people being needed in the, or say a limit of 10 people within a store, they obviously limit that the flow, which is great. But instead of having 50 people working in that store, because every aisle, every department needs 1 or 2 person to pack the shelves as they are being used, they only need 10 people. Because whilst there are only 10 people moving within the store, they can have 10 staff members repacking as they go along. So the whole time structure is going a bit, it's a negative, on a negative slope now as well. So automatically out of the 50 people, and I think I said 40 or 50, but out of the 50 people that are working in spa, which is an essential service, suddenly only 40 lose their jobs because only 10 are needed, because they are also cutting curves. And the reality of the matter is they've lost income. And they said that most of those guys that work in essential services have lost about 40 to 50% of their work, petrol stations, grocery stores, and so on. And the bigger factor is, even with tourism taking the knock as it did, eventually the people are going to run out of money. So creating opportunity, yes, there's I suppose if somebody comes up with great ideas, then wow, within awesome. And especially if we can move around again, then yes, that's also, again, awesome. But even bigger factor is because of the ripple effect that people are experiencing, that is going to take time. It's going to be a major, major problem for people to economically recover from this. So instead of now thinking of course, nothing stops you from thinking outside the box and coming up with ideas and sharing them and trying to do something. But the reality of the matter, where we're standing here today, is that nobody can conclusively tell you this is what's going to happen and this is how the ways forward's going to go. And that's a big reality, because we as humans, obviously, we think about our futures, we think about our children, we think about our families, we see where we're going, what are we doing, etc. And for mankind to come to a point where somebody tells you, you know what, sit down, take a break, we can't tell you anything because nobody knows. So instead of there being a higher power that tells us, okay, guys, this is now the plan, this is what we're going to do, this is the steps, etc., nobody knows. Now, nobody in our lives has ever gone through, well, I can't think of anybody alive at this point in time that has ever gone through something like, whether it was the black flu back then, whether it was the one, the pandemics that have been, to call it that. Yeah, so the comfort, to call it that, needs to be found in the factor that we need to realize that we don't have the answers at this point in time. And that comes back to that keeping the faith. The more you keep the faith about what's going to happen in the future, how's it going to happen, that's literally what we need to hold on, because that's where everybody's depression comes from at this point in time, is nobody know how what's going to happen. Ooh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. And we're dependent of all the institutions that actually are responsible for our country. And that is, whether it's government, whether it's banks, whether it's essential services and so on. Instead of, they need to start collectively working towards assisting mankind. It's difficult in Namibia. I know other countries, whether it was stretching from America, Canada, Europe, so many of them have from a government perspective, have realized, gee, there's a hell of an impact that has just been made. So we as country need to jump in and actually help. That is something we don't have here. And so what are we going to do as Namibians? What are we going to do as a country? We need to actually literally now extend our hand to, if you know 2 houses down doesn't have money for food, but you have an extra $100 or something like that, help that person out, because that's how humankind needs to stand together at this point in time. It's the only option we have in Namibia. Otherwise, it's going to be riots. It's going to be people going crazy if we don't literally see what reality we're facing at this point in time and how we need to help the people.
Okay, thanks.
I hope that helped or answered.
Guys, I would like also to point out the conservation point of view now, that factor, because now where we operate in the Zambezi region, conservancies and communities rely on tourism. The moment we can't produce income for conservancy, for communities, there's a huge problem, poaching and all of that coming up. That's going to happen. So just don't forget about this factor. Huge. Yeah.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
The one thing, Albie, if I can add in something, something that was driving me crazy last week and the week before was all the negativity, you know, all these conspiracy theories, all the, oh, this is happening. Then that person was saying there was no real facts and everybody was, you know, everybody's jumping on everybody. What I did is switched off. And you cannot believe, even though I switched off in a social manner, in the sense that I felt like I'm getting too much information and it's making me overthink. And that when you start overthinking, you start getting anxiety, etc. And I've learned through the years of just doing the tours that I've done, irrespective of being employed, when me now being self-employed, I found that helped me a lot. Okay, then I would delegate one time a day to look at what Nirupesh was putting on, because I knew that stuff would be factual, if that makes sense. Thank you, Nirupesh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Loud and clear.
No, I can't hear him.
5 out of 5.
Anyway,
Loud and clear,
but
Tony.
for me, it was as soon as I felt that I was reaching for social media, whether it be the news or the looking at the newspapers or Facebook or whatever, then I felt like everything felt like it was falling on my head again. There's nothing I can do about it, so I have to take one day at a time, okay? I've got to, and I think it was you, Heiko, I think it was you that said that you've got to think, no, it was Maureen, sorry, said you've got to think about yourself, you've got to make sure that your things are all in place, etc., etc. That makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense what I've just said, but
No,
yeah.
that makes
Does
perfect
I think
sense.
yeah, it's also, as you said, it's living a day today and tomorrow. Don't think about the future at the moment, because that is not at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen.
Well,
But
we had
also
our,
all the
we had
fake
our,
news going on. It's also something bad on social media at the moment.
yes, the fighting is really, it's like, you know what, then I just turn my head around and I go squeeze more lemons, because my lemon tree is producing too many lemons. So I go do stupid things like that, and you cannot believe
Okay,
it.
where are you based?
In Windhoek.
Okay, no, I need to.
You want a lemon, if you want, by the way, if you want lemon syrup, I've got thousands of bottles.
My
Can
family
you
is very
send some
German,
to
so
Warwick
we
Bay,
love
please?
those things.
I also agree. I agree with the fact, just to answer your thing about, you know, what's going to happen next month. I was talking to, and I'm freelance and I'm a tour guide, so I'm not. I have my certain companies that I specifically work for, and I've just had another cancellation going further into the year, August, and that made me realize, well, you know, I was sort of thinking, okay, August is around the corner, you know, you can get there, but now that is another little cross, so now you've got to readjust, you know. So we've just got to take it one day at a time. That's all I can say.
What I think is actually that if I just can say that I think that they will rather open up the lockdown on inside the country before they will open up the borders. So and for starting with all the flights. So I think that at this stage we must think about how we can actually accommodate the local tourism and start up with a plan with that.
I think that the local tourism, it's something difficult, because you must just imagine all Namibians, we are in the same position and we don't have money to travel. So even if the prices of accommodation get down, you still have to pay for the petrol and for everything. Who will have enough money now to say, okay, I don't mind, I travel? There is few people, but most of them are business people, and business people, they must be saving money for paying their employees for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, you don't know. So I'm not sure there will be a lot of people who will be willing to travel now.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think also if we have to attract local tourism, some of us, most of the accommodation establishment, they need to look at how much money does a Namibian earn every end of a month, and is it available or viable for that person to travel at the same time? Because like Diku said the other day, I cannot splash 10,000 to travel alone. Well, I can be able to accommodate my friends and have a party or a bride home for 3,000 rand. So we need to adjust the price to the point that local travelers, or if we have to attract the local traveler, our prices has to drop down. Of which this is my call to the government. The government need to come in now and try to speak to the most of the lodge or accommodation owner on how can we be able to improve, like LB said, the local tourism. Carol just raised a very good point as well, but we need to look how much
but
is
they are costs.
going to.
They are fixed costs that you cannot go below than that. I mean, if we have to work just to, to be busy, then rather keep close. I don't know. That's my point of view.
No, I think.
I'm gonna.
Sorry. No, like Jose was saying, I'm thinking that maybe somebody can come in and try to do a very good solution to try to lower down the prices, but at the same time, it's not enough. It's really not enough. I mean, somebody must step in, and in this case, it's only the government that can step in and try to help a little bit of all the sectors of the tourism, because we like Simone is saying, we can try to lower as low as we can, but then it's not convenient. Not convenient. It's not. You will lose to keep a lodge open because you will not have. You cannot cover your costs.
Well,
I know
hello
that,
everyone. Prosper here.
Who's that?
Prosper.
Yeah, so I've been, I'm listening to everything that you guys are saying. My apologies that I can't be on video as I'm driving. But just to chip in on the discounting of pricing, I agree with what's been shared just now, that it will be difficult for one to just lower prices because you've got they also have to break even, so we must keep that in mind. I think also control and managing the bookings and the traveling of people in and out of the lodge will become quite challenging if prices are at a certain level. But with that said, you also notice that the cost of travel generally for the average Namibian is often quite, as Joseph said, that's quite high, because obviously we price based on our clientele, which is mainly inbound tourists, people coming from markets outside Africa. So they can afford easily because of the difference in our currencies. So if we bring that home, it's going to be very difficult to play around with the prices on that one. I think that the best thing I see working for us as Namibians is to try and figure out how we can balance whatever the cost will be. Some have slashed prices halfway, which is a good thing. But if we can figure out a way to balance the quality or the packages that you're getting for that discounted price and make it worth it, that people will be encouraged to spend that extra dollar to get these packages, I think that might work out better, because then the person offering the package will not lose so much. They could maybe add incentives such as activities and stuff like that to the bookings instead of slashing the prices lower, things that would not cost them so much, because if they are not careful, they won't break even on the food cost, they won't break even on the labor and all the other things that are obviously essential for a lodge stay to be successful. So yeah, I would say that we figure out a way to add incentives, which wouldn't cost so much on the person hosting, and also encourage the traveler to maybe spend on that discounted price, which still helps the other person to break even.
That's a good point. What I also thought about was if you work out your prices for the accommodation, you always take into consideration all the expenses you have. But maybe we could cut down on some of those exclusive services and just advertise it without it. And if the customer or the local tourist want to have those, then they must pay extra for that, but they can have the accommodation without that at a cheaper price.
Yeah, I think that
Let me
sounds like
just cut.
something that can work for others as well.
Yeah, just before the lockdown was declared, we had a meeting with Olav List, I think the group of Mokuti, Strand Hotel, what is this, the farm and all those kind of things. They brought a very good package, which was mostly affordable for all the Namibians. And out of that package that they created, I managed to get about 250 Namibians willing to stay 3 nights in Strand Hotel, 5 nights in Mokuti, and what is this farm they have just outside Okahanya?
Midgard.
Midgard. I had 250 clients, so of which local tourism can work, but we need to readjust our package. The owner, the group of Strand Hotel, they are the good, an example that we should all take. They look at the prices and they look at how much basic salary a Namibian can afford. That is how we can adjust the price. Simone, I'm not against you on anything, but we have to come to a point that most of our accommodation establishment, they need to have at least clients so that we can maintain to pay some of those basic needs that we need. We are not, this year, it's already totally out for everybody to make money or to come up and say we had make money, but just to sustain our business going forward.
No, look, I agree with you that that's the way forward. But the problem is, you know, Ottawa and Liz can do it because Okania, Swakopmund, and Windhoek, they are close by. You spend how much in fuel to get there? Just check people in the Tosha region or us in the Zambezi, we are cut out. Just to get here, you're going to spend $3,000 of fuel. Even if I put my accommodation at 60%, where am I going? We tried, we advertised in the past when things were good, 40% off, 50% off. You know how much we got back? Zero. So it's difficult. It is difficult. And then you say you keep those options available. You want to do it, that's an extra cost. You don't want to do it, you pay the normal thing. Fine. But to keep that options ready on a standby, it's already a cost. I cannot keep 2 guides and a boat and 3 game viewers on a standby, hoping that someone will do a game run with me rather than doing a self-drive in the park. It's going to be a cost for me. It's difficult. It is. Well, you know, it can work for some and they should go for it. And on top of this, they're going for it. They're right. Gondwana should probably do it. The other 90% of the small operators or big or small, whatever lodges, they won't. Well, I don't know.
There has been, I can tell you now that within industry, there has been and Rupesh could actually agree with that. That's how I think the whole Vonnie's watching on Facebook. She can't join now, but one of the biggest comments is, yes, there has been some heated debates about, and also comments coming out of Namibians. You'll always get the negative Nellies out there, unfortunately. But the reality of the matter is a lot of them came over now and said, oh, now suddenly you want to drop your prices. Now suddenly you want to make it cheaper. Why not earlier for the Namibians? But Simone, what you said now, the reality of the matter is, and collectively you guys are making, basically drawing up a big picture here now in terms of, the reality of the matter is, the biggest thing is how much does a Namibian earn? How much does the average Namibian person, the 8 to 5 or 9 to 5er, Mondays to Fridays, how much do they earn? And then from there on out, you need to actually then see, well, where can they go? That's the second thing. And thirdly, then who subsidizes that? Because Strand Hotel doing $500 a night for, I think it was B&B or something like that, the infrastructure alone of what it costs, I can tell you now, they are subsidizing, they are pushing money in to be able to allow people to enjoy that special, which is magnificent. But like now with the Zambezi, it's not possible for everybody. There's a business model in place, and it's a straightforward reality. If you want to offer something, you paid for your lodge, you paid for your boat, you paid for your guide, or are paying for your guide. Some people still have bank loans that they need to service. It's a straightforward business model. So you take that business model and you say, okay, well, what can I subsidize to the Namibian market to be able to do that, and then discount that? But a lot of negativity came from the people that don't understand what does it in fact cost to run a lodge. What are the things involved? What are the high seasons, the low seasons, and so on? I mean, a big thing, and this is somebody that's been in tourism for years, decades already, that said to me, where does high and low season actually come from? How did that start back then? High season, it was the demand, it was hunting in Namibia in May, and afterwards they wanted to go on tour for a couple of weeks and so on. That's how it started becoming more and more and more attractive. Now, then that's where a lot of people saw as well, the world's changing, people want to take control, they want to do something themselves, they want to travel themselves. The whole high season, low season demographic is changing a bit, all positive, because that all allows the lodges and the establishments offering these services to actually reassess and see, you know what, we can actually counter our prices and streamline them down towards actually having the same price throughout the whole year, and then adapt that towards the business model. So if you know my capacity is at 50% for annually, then adjust your budget accordingly. You unfortunately have the people that have the feeling that there is people that take advantage of the fellow Namibian or the next person and so on. It's a supply and demand scenario. If you have clients coming from overseas that are able to pay something that we are offering here, that's what they're going to be paying. If you compare us to Botswana, for example, a lot of the people say we want to visit the Okavango Delta. Check out what those people are charging and then reassess about what we as Namibians are actually able to enjoy. The big thing here is, where can I go? What can I afford? Which people offer it to me? ONL, Gondwana, all those guys are mentioned that they actually offer these things for Namibians already. But who said that they had advertised for 50% off for Namibia, for Namibians or SADC clients? Somebody mentioned that just now.
Well, I said that we did.
You said
Virus campaign in the back. But...
Yes. Okay. So coming specifically on that, and this is this is also stuff that came up in discussion, was even when you offer something like that and you subsidize your business towards Namibian people being allowed to actually enjoy the wonderful places we have, even then, not all of them are able to do it because it just costs so much money. If I drive from Omaru to Rundu now with my bakkie or whatever the case might be and come back again, I'm going to spend $6,000 of fuel. So that needs to be budgeted. And a person that earns on average 5, 10, or 15,000 bucks a month. Take people that have that employ people in their own businesses. Just look at your own payroll. What do you pay the people? So how are those people going to be able to afford that? So instead of attacking the establishments, in the sense of, now suddenly you want to drop your prices. Why not back then? I'm not saying everybody dropped their prices, but there are a heck of a lot of people that have these options available. There are SADC structures in place. The big reality is the people can't visit the places because they don't have the money. So instead of attacking the people that have the establishments that they are doing something wrong, no, they're not doing something wrong. They have, some of these places have awesome packages in place. It's the Namibian people as a whole that just don't earn enough, unfortunately. And that's a bigger reality we need to look at. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but this is...
No, that's what it is. I cooperate with Botswana a lot. I hear Zimbabwe people a lot. There's no discussion going on there for the local tourism. They just know that it's not going to happen. So I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't go there. We should, and people will still travel in where it's possible and when it's close by, you know, where it's not so expensive, but it's not going to solve the problem of the industry. I mean, it's not going to solve the whole problem here. Maybe we should think.
I just want to add on there and touch maybe on a few points that Heiko brought up. The first one is the Gondwanas and the bigger chain groups. I think part of the reason why they can do what they are doing, whether it's pumping money in to assist and somehow add incentives to packages and specials, is because they are bigger groups and they've got lodges all across. So it's a bit easier for them to come out with packages, as Joseph was saying earlier, that coming up with a good package would be one of the solutions or the better way forward in for some of the lodges. So it's easier obviously for bigger chains, but for smaller lodges, I totally agree that for example, ones that are in the Zambezi or maybe further down in the south, you are in remote locations. For people to get there, it's already a hassle. And I think that on these 2 points, something that can be considered would be to figure out a way that we can all work together. I'll use, for example, Joseph is a tour operator or tour facilitator. And then you've got somebody else who's got a lodge owner. You've got somebody else who may be a hotel owner or a B&B. And then you figure out a way to either put a package that includes all these 3 components. So what you're basically doing is then selling a similar package that you would sell to a foreign tourist or to a European, but you sell that to a Namibian at some form of a discounted cost, which still allows a win-win situation where the lodge owner manages to still make money off this thing. The tour operator still manages to make money off this thing. And then it's also an easier burden on the client. I agree that the Namibian individual or average client does not earn enough. We do have, however, people within the country that can afford to travel. Obviously, they are a much smaller population. And for people on that level, they will still be space. There will still be a variety of packages they can take, which would still work for them. Because some people value their space. They value certain things because they can afford it. But for those that may not value so much of a very, very luxurious type of an experience, I think that packages where, I mean, group tours, for example, they are all based on affordability, budget conscious clients for the most part. So if we can look at models like that and figure out a way to say, okay, how about, these are just examples I'm throwing out, by the way. You take, say, a group of, say, 10, 20 people that are traveling together, going to different locations, doing certain experiences. This could also assist us to actually boost and help cultural and community tourism within the different areas in the country. Whether it's in communal areas, it could be in the cities. We can figure out a way to mix packages in such a way that, say, this group of people of 20 get to do all these things at some form of discounted cost, obviously per activity, per lodge, and or per service being rendered. And then it's a total package that it would be similar to what you'd have sold to somebody coming from outside, but then it's brought to a place where for somebody in Namibia, they can afford it in the group context. So what would this look like if we add numbers? Say, for example, a tour generally costs 10,000 per person in a group of, say, 5 people. If you add the group number to, say, 20 people, now this tour no longer costs 10,000. It now will cost about 5,000, more or less. But then you can still get a similar service. Obviously, certain things will have to be adjusted. Things like, for example, if you were gonna get a room to yourself, then you may need to be open to sharing. Obviously, again, this is a package for people that are on average or that earn an average salary. So you also see their preferences are not going to be too demanding. So I think these are some of the things we can start to think about. I mean, like I said, I'm just throwing examples out. I'm just throwing scenarios out so that we can think around these things. I'm not saying this is an ultimate statement or solution I'm suggesting. I'm just throwing things out as we are discussing. So I think these are some of the ways we can look into accommodating ourselves as Namibians, or accommodating fellow Namibians and meeting them at a place where they're at this point in time. And then also keeping in mind that we still have people who can afford. And for those people, we can then have certain set packages, because if we work together as an industry, tour operators, lodge owners, everybody involved, all stakeholders, you would find that the hurdle of me having to spend 3,000 by myself to get to the Zambezi region, that is taken off immediately if I'm going in a group, right? And we're using, say, a bus or a vehicle that's being provided by a tour operator, who obviously we are paying for that service, but together the burden is shared, and so on and so forth. So we could find ways that with a united industry, we can find solutions which won't create additional hurdles and red tape for the local markets. Because I think if we're being honest with ourselves, it's going to take some time to fully recover our inbound source markets. Because even if Namibia opens its borders in the next month or 2 or 3, and say, okay, we're open for business again, are our clients gonna be ready to travel? And I think the honest answer is, chances are no. They won't be able to travel immediately, because it's gonna take time for people to get used to traveling again. If the World Health Organization introduces the health passport, which is something already on the table for discussion, that's gonna require certain procedures to be put in place on the arrival side, on the departure side, on both sides of this coin. There will be a lot of things that would have to be put into consideration for travel to start running smoothly again. So on being realistic, you will find that chances are that the industry will start to really see full recovery, maybe even towards the end of the year into next year. I'm not saying we won't get travel from inbound travelers after we open borders. We may, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to resuscitate us as quickly as we need to. And I think that's why it becomes very, very important that we figure out sustainable and very realistic solutions for the local market.
Sorry, Prosper, to come in. I think it's a fantastic analysis. The problem here is that you're talking about groups moving around and Namibians, 20 people and so on. I think that is quite unrealistic, to be honest. You need to take in consideration that what we can try, and I think is the only solution, is to work on the weekends. You cannot try to work on a trip. So when you're talking about the weekends, you're talking about leaving on a Friday afternoon and be back on a Sundays, because nobody can take out, especially in this harsh time, a full 10 days or 8 days or 7 days and so on. As a tour operator, I did cost and I checked properly. And like Simone said, we did some costing, talking to the lodges, like you said rightly, and trying to put not having even a gain, to be very honest with you, not putting any margin that I have a margin of 5% or 2%, zero. Just try to cover the cost, cover the vehicles. The guys, I spoke to the guys saying, listen, guys, we're going down all about 60%, and let's try. Still, you're coming out with an amount of money that is way, way too high for a Namibian, to be very honest. So the only solution, and you're going for a weekend holiday, that is perfect, but then you're still going back to the places that they are reachable from Windhoek or from Swakopmund. You're not going to the area, the remote area, like you're saying now, no more with the conservation, so on. No, those ones that cut off completely, and that is reality. Because when you put a package together, even though you try your best, even though you go really as low as you can, just to say, listen, I don't want to make money. My guys, they're here and they're freelance. I just want you guys to have something. I'm just happy to cover the cost of my vehicle, and that's it. And we try to do it on cost. And the lodges, all the lodges I spoke, they're ready to do that. They're really ready. But it's impossible. It's really impossible. That is what the fact is coming out. I mean, you can afford it. It's on a weekend basis. You cannot afford to think about 20 people. Already to put 20 Namibians together is impossible. The only thing, you can go to the school and say, listen, when the school will be open, let's try to do something. But for the rest, you can't. I mean, let's be realistic. This is my opinion. This is how I work out my cost. And when I did all the costing is ending up that way, and it's reality.
Can I say something? Yes, you are talking about covering the cost and everything like that. You must look further. If you stay closed for 5, 6 months, then you're going to lose a lot. Is it not better to think that you're going to lose less, to carry on till the end of the year until the tourists come back and say you are not covering the cost, but instead of losing 1,000 per day, you lose only 800 or 500, and you can last longer before you close down completely, because we must be really realistic. Tourists will not come back at least before September, if they can travel, and it's only the one who have booked already. I don't think we're gonna have new bookings now until next year, because people are too scared. They don't know what's gonna happen with the COVID. They say they're afraid of second wave in Europe again when it's coming cold again. So I don't think we'll have new clients. If all the borders are open, I guess the one for September, October, November will come, but it's even not sure. So instead of saying, well, we have to cover our cost, if you stay close, I mean for the lodges or for the tour operator who's got a car or buses, how much does it cost to have your bus standing the whole month? If it's 10,000, is it not better to lose only 8,000 and sell it for 2,000 instead of saying, I'm going to cover my costs up to 10,000? It's just an idea.
Well, I think it's a good
I would
idea
like
because
just to come in quickly there before Alexandro, before I forget this question. Prosper raised a very good question here about that in Namibia, if we try local tourism, there are still those who can be able to afford it. Prosper, you have to understand, those who can afford it, yes, they can be able to afford it, but are they willing to lose it right now with the situation that none of us knows if tomorrow you can still have your job or you cannot have it? That's a question we should ask ourselves here, Prosper. It's a very good point, relevant. I've attended a lot of conferencing between this time around, and the question is always come, are those having it right now willing to lose it for the sake of traveling?
Can I say something? I think you're right there. I think we should think a bit creatively. I mean, what do we have is unique landscapes, right? And what we know, wildlife, and all what we know about. And these guys are sitting at home in New York, in Paris, in Milano, in wherever they are. Can't we maybe try to think a bit out of the box and say, telecom, government, give us the tools, give us the, you know, the technology to showcase our region, each and everyone for where we are and what we can do, and on one website, which is the Namibian Tourism Board website, whatever, one can, you know, go on a virtual game drive, on a virtual flight, on a virtual tour, whatever. And these are packaged. They're there in one, you just, you know, for €1, €2, whatever. I'm just thinking, you know, the only way is we have beautiful places to showcase, but people are sitting at home and they're going to be sitting at home for a long time. Maybe they with €1, they would like to see what's happening at the moment live in the Zambezi rather than in the desert, rather than in Windhoek, you know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'll pop in here quickly. I don't know if somebody else is that, but virtual tourism is already making a major up and coming thing, especially overseas, and also with a big and Rupesh, I think people are going to start shooting me as the negative Nelly in this group at some point, because the big factor as well is that speaking with, again, agencies in tourism, and also not only with people in tourism, but also especially with people in the market. Joseph, what you said there is 100% right. The people are going to be sitting on their money now. The people that can afford it, just to go back to Prosper's point as well, they're going to be the ones that, if they can afford it, they can go themselves in any case. So they will definitely not go in a group, because that's just how we sometimes think and click. Market related. 2020, and I think it was somebody said that as well. 2020, only the people that are still allowed to come will be able to come. 2021 is going to be at least 50% knock. This is how people from Europe are anticipating it. If I'm wrong, hallelujah, then it's positive news for all of us. but at least a 50% knock for 2021. And in terms of normal recovery, we're only looking at 2022, where people say, well, maybe then we'll have recovered to some or other point. So this information is not something that we just guessed or something like that. This is information that we've gotten from speaking, like I said, all over the world, with a hell of a lot of people just trying to get the information about how do you see your country traveling. Germany itself, the ITB organizers, we had a workshop, online workshop with them. They realistically stated that tourism as an industry in Germany, for example, has just experienced an 80-year setback in terms of the mindset about how the people think. So 80 years ago, when it was 1960, the people would usually, they would do in Germany, they would do a weekend away, maybe to a different town, maybe to a lake, something like that. And then later on it went, okay, maybe we'll visit another country, maybe we will go drive around there. All that is happening now again because the people remain afraid. So until that is established again, then only we will see a recovery in industry here. Adding on to that, not only the people in tourism are responsible for slashing their prices. We need to think about what you need and require to actually maintain an establishment or a lodge. So this is where the lodges need assistance as well. Just think of whether you go to the hardware store, whether you go to the grocery store, whether you go to the sustenance that you need to buy to actually maintain this place. Those are people that also need to take into consideration that they can drop their prices. And I know a lot of people are forgetting that, but I saw a pic the other day of Discount selling a Dettol bottle at $90. These are opportunistic price hikes, which need to be controlled and literally put in proper place as well for the guys that actually have the lodges to be able to survive as well. And I think Liana, yeah, see, she's joined as well. But I mean, she can probably give us even better insight into what a lodge requires to actually maintain itself. So only going to the guys in establishment saying, cut your prices, cut your prices, cut your prices. Great, it's awesome. Let's do that. But it needs to go through the whole literally marketplace. Everybody needs to try and be able to do that. Make the fuel cheaper. Oil has never been so cheap in I don't know how many years did we speak about the other day. It's been so cheap. I can't even remember. But make the fuel cheaper. Make the transport prices cheaper to grocery stores that usually earn, and this is all coming out of industry that usually operate on a 35% GP. Well, then knock down your prices to 15 to 20%. It's not only the people in tourism that need to actually do the work here. Yeah, okay. I heard.
Yeah, if I can jump in here, I agree with you, Haiku. The lodges, they do need to look at their prices definitely, and I think a lot of them did, and a lot of them have also looked at freezing their rates for next year. But just from our side, on the reservation side, just some positive input as well. We saw cancellations when the travel bans obviously started knocking in, and then we saw a whole lot of booking amendments, people just postponing, and a lot of people postponed still till September this year or October this year, obviously a lot of them to next year. But I must say, from this week I've started seeing new bookings coming in. So we started seeing new direct bookings from booking.com and Expedia. We've started seeing some new bookings from operators that's not amendments. So I do think, for this year also, as well as for next year, I don't think people are as scared to travel as we think they are. I think the older people might be a bit more afraid to travel than the younger bunch. Younger people always have this sense of being untouchable. So yeah, I don't know. I think we are heading into hard times, but people aren't as afraid as we think they are. I think, yeah, my opinion.
Joseph, you raised your hand.
Yeah. it was a little bit earlier when I raised my hand, and I think I was in agreement with what just Heiko just said a few minutes ago. But we should look also at the regional travel. Regional travel is also something that can be able, as soon as our borders open, we can be able to look at the regional travels and try to see how we can be able to also benefit from the regional travel, especially for those accommodation establishment. Because for this year, when it's come to tour guiding or guiding in Namibia, I think only very few of us will have that job or that opportunity to guide in the Namibian land of contrast this year, because based on cancellation that I personally experienced, I have almost all my booking for this year all been postponed or canceled for next year. And luckily, I can be able to say I'm a very lucky guy that none of my cancellation clients actually request for a cancellation fee, because they actually understand to the point that there's an office fee, there's a reservation person that need to be paid, there's the Wi-Fi that need to be paid. So I'm coming out without cancellation fee, but I don't know about the rest of the people. So I'm looking at how I can be able to incorporate now my booking from this year with the regional travelers that can be able actually to come to Namibia. And I have to look at how and which lodges I'm gonna work with. And with those certain lodge or those lodge that I'm willing to work with, try to adjust their prices so that they can fit my counterparts, which is either Botswana, South Africa, Lesotho, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and whoever wants to come to Namibia, like they always come. But it has been so difficult to get to the point that either of the accommodation establishment is willing to accept the prices that you are giving. So how is the government now coming in to help improve this industry that has been contributing 26% of the GDP to the government economy? The government, for me, in this case, are to be blamed somewhere, somehow, because they are not doing anything to improve or to promote the tourism, especially the regional and the local tourism. They need to call all the lodge establishment to the board or to a meeting that they have to explain to them. He said, guys, we understand the situation that you are in, but what we can be able to do as the government, we're going to be able to give you this certain amount of money or certain loan from the government, of which you can be able to run your establishment for a certain number of period. And then from there, try to adjust your price so that you can either accommodate the local tourism on this price, on this certain level, and then the regional tourism on this certain level. This is my opinion, and don't say that I'm trying to influence or trying to do this, but it's just my point of view. And the government has to come in some way, somehow. They have to help the community, or they have to help the lodges, because majority of the people that have been working in the tourism industry, all of them, 100% have lost their job. But we need to get those 250, 260,000 Namibian who were employed directly and indirectly to do something
Joseph.
in the meantime. So if the government is not coming in, we are doomed for the tourism industry this year.
Joseph,
Yeah, well,
have you
Joseph,
seen?
if I can, yeah.
Have you
Go
seen
on.
Have you seen the NBC discussion or show that was 2 days ago? I think it was 3 days ago, with the minister. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that was on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday I saw it.
Yeah, but what did you get out of it? I mean, I didn't see that enthusiasm from the government really I didn't see that drive, that push. I was a bit, confused.
They were not on the same page.
If I can come in here, I also saw the conversation that happened. I think it was the minister, Digu Nauberg, the CEO of NTB, and Mr. Ben Schneider, who's the current chairman of FENATA. They were just talking on effects of the virus on our tourism industry and obviously people were able to ask questions and so on and so forth. But I agree that one couldn't pick up that drive to subsidize the industry or drive to come up with solutions that the government can implement immediately. Joseph, I agree with you that the government has not really done as much as we would want them to do, but I have to say that they have done something. Unfortunately, it's not enough to help the tourism industry with the help that we need at this point in time. I mean, for example, they have dropped I think Bank of Namibia has dropped the interest rates and so on. They've initiated the plan through Ministry of Finance to try and subsidize people, and they are refunding VAT as quickly as they can. So there are things that are moving here and there where you can see the government doing something. But like I said, I do agree with you that they've not done enough for tourism, because I think tourism needs its own special focus for us to get the necessary help that we need. And I agree that there's need for talking. There's definitely need for lobbying the government to maybe help them understand more on what's really happening in all corners of the industry. Because I personally, this is my personal opinion, I think that some parts of government do not have the full context of what people are really dealing with. And by people, I'm referring to tourism businesses, lodges, and so on. It also small time people, like, people offering maybe cultural tours, or, people doing small things within the industry. The effects of this are pretty heavy on them, especially considering that we've been locked down now. They really can't do anything. And I think these are some of the things that in some parts of government, I don't think they are really fully understood in the way they should be. So yeah, I agree that there is need for government to step up and subsidize and give more support, or to bring more talking onto the table as to what can we do. So, and this is something that I think that Bent and Fenata, this includes, everybody on board, Han, Tasa, and so on. It's work to be done to try and get through to government. And Joseph, you are the chairperson of ITEA. I really think that these are conversations that we can all collectively take up to government. And this has already been done, I must say. I don't know if all of you received or are aware that through FENATA, communication has gone to government requesting for very specific help in specific areas, such as tax, help with finance, and so on and so forth. So requests have been put across. And I would like to think that there are conversations going on behind the scenes, probably between Bent, who's leading FENATA, and the Minister of Environment and Tourism, and hopefully something can come out of it. So I wouldn't like to believe that nothing is happening. I think that there is something happening. It may not be enough right away or at this point in time, but I think that there is some movement somewhere. We probably just need to push, and maybe government will be more proactive rather than wait for us to come to them, request for things, and then they move on that. So that would be my input with regards to government involvement. Yeah, we need them, but also we have to keep in mind not everyone working within the different government ministries and understand or comes with a background of the work they are doing, especially where tourism is concerned. There are many people that some have learnt on the job, and some were moved from totally different ministries into the environment, forestry, and tourism ministry. So yeah, we have to constantly be thinking on how can we engage them on their level and on a level that promotes unity and working together. Yeah, I don't think it's a time for us to really be accusing or pointing fingers at government. Yeah, we know there are shortfalls, but I must say, to a certain extent, we also have to acknowledge what has been done, and then we work from there.
No, I agree with that statement. I agree with that, Prosper, but we need to be a bit more reassured. There's fear I feel a lot of fear among our industry, and we need to hear a bit of reassurance, I think.
Simon, you wanted to say
Yeah.
something as well? You. Okay, I see he's cut off now. There's a lot of things that has been said about government as well, and I don't think it's a blaming game. I think it's, again, we need to reassess what the reality of the matter is. The reality of the matter is there, and this is, again, not to, it's not placing blame anywhere. The reality of the matter is there's little up to no money available. The money that's been made available now, yes, excellent, brilliant. There are strategic steps that have been put in place which are being pushed through, and I think we can applaud them for that. But on the long run, the government has never had the VAT outstanding alone for claims that need to be paid out is standing at just over 3 billion. So out of the 8.1 billion that's outstanding, or that has been made available, just imagine 3 billion going out to quicker VAT refunds already. But the VAT refund is something that will save you now, yes, and it will help you now, but it's in effect something that you should have received in any case. We don't have the capabilities or the possibilities where we can say we can apply for a grant, for example, as it is in other states. So again, this is where within industry, we need to have a look around to see how people are going to be able to be helped, not expecting only the government to step in and be our saving grace. It would be nice, but let's face reality here. There's just not the money to be able to sustain us all going forward through that, unless government obviously receives a big grant from somewhere else. But there's just been too little time for something like that to happen. I don't know how other people, how everybody else feels about that.
No, I agree. Just before I go, I want to say I agree with you, Heiko. We can't expect government to come and be saving grace. We definitely have to be proactive, or a lot more proactive than even we were before, to engage them. Like I said, that I think that yes, our government is definitely not perfect, and same applies for every other government across the world. So it is definitely necessary that we figure out how can we work together with government with whatever resources are available to us or within our government. You are right what you say that our government does not have all that much money as well. We should definitely keep that in mind. And in that line of thinking, I think we can really come up with some practical solutions where there is good partnership between the private sector and the government. I see better hope for us in that way than almost just sitting and waiting for either government to do something, or for government to sit and think maybe private sector has themselves sorted. I mean, if I can use an example here, the bank, for example, many banks are offering options for people. If you've got a vehicle loan, if you've got a house, a mortgage, and so on, they're offering payment holidays and different options that can cater for you from where you are. But one thing they do need from people is for people to speak up, for people to approach them, talk to their banker, talk to whoever was responsible for this place and say, hey, this is where I'm at. How can you help me? Many people are almost expecting the bank to just call them and say, oh, by the way, we realize that you've been affected. Here is help for you. I think we have to start thinking like that, help won't just come to us. We have to step up and to a certain extent just grab it and utilize what's available.
That's definitely the case. I know there's been some comments on Facebook that I've just read as well, which is also a positive thing again that we need to look at. The biggest and main priority at this point in time for us all is to keep literally trying to get the good word out there about how beneficial it is to actually come to Namibia. And it's like we said, it's one of the most isolated places in the world. People are definitely going to be eager to do that. The 10% out of the whole traveling market you are still going to have those we need to promote. And there are a couple of things that count in favor. I mean, we've got the weekend rand. I see some Ray posted something about that. It's a major benefit for them because they can travel from outside at 20% cheaper now already. It's something, it's a vantage point. It's not a positive thing, don't get me wrong, but it's a vantage point. Say, get the outside money in. That's going to be our saving grace. Get the everybody's talking about, stop talking about it, implement it, done. If you want to open up the lockdown eventually within Namibia, keep the borders closed, even that from South Africa. So a bit of a sensitive thing going on at the moment with their numbers, but it's closed, open up Namibia within, get the health passes implemented. If you want to come and you don't want to be put into quarantine, get a stamp before you come, get tested. There will still be people that want to do that, but this is the direction we need to be thinking towards actually getting money from outside into Namibia again. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Since we are there at the government, I think the response on the Namibian government, it's forever been slow, and it has always been slow. And in this kind of case, we need speed. We need them to speed up on the decision making and decision taking. These things of turning around, going left, center, where you have three people that are speaking about the sector that has been the most influential sector in Namibia, not on the same page, because you have FENATA we had raised through FENATA, we have raised some couple of issues of which we have taken every way. And then they are thinking of tourism just being tourism. Tourism, it's a mass job creation here. And if the government cannot be able to realize that tourism make everybody live, the chain of which the tourism support families in Namibia is quite big. It's not only from one person, it's a chain, it's a long chain of which involves 10 to 15 people. Because I personally, being the tour guide, when I stop at a petrol station, that means I feed a family of 3 already. And when I stop at a restaurant, I feed another family of 3. And then I stop at a shop, I feed another family of 4. So the government doesn't realize that. They just think tourism is only one person who is involved, of which that is a wake-up call now for the for the minister himself. As one person, it's a chain. It's a chain of command. If that chain breaks from the top, that means the rest of the people downstairs or downwards are being cut off. And that is exactly what is happening. We want those decision makers to make the decision quite quick on what effect the tourism has, or what can we be able to do for the tourism. We talk about banks, we talk about finance minister organizing documents and what. Those documents have not reached certain banks. I had one of my members asking me, Joseph, as a chairperson of an association, what are the project proposals that you guys have come up that I can go to my bank and try to reschedule my loan repayment? I couldn't even answer because I have nothing. All I have is drafted documents of which are getting dust in my office, and the rest is not being done. I would want the government, in this case, the tourism supposed to be the first priority. Even I'm not against the 750, but they should be immediately after launching the 750, they should immediately launch also the tourism sectors on saying this is what the tourism need to get, or this is how we propose the tourism industry should regain back the confidence of everybody. Because right now we have been waiting for the week, and we wait for another week, and we wait for another week. I'm sorry, but that's just my point of view.
Joseph, you're quite right there. There's a lot of input from higher powers that be that are discussing all these things with government, but that will definitely be something that is not going to, like you said, our government's slow. It'll take time. The bigger picture we have now is to see what are going to be the guidelines coming from outside, what's happening in the world. Stay active, especially stay informed. We need to have a look at what's happening. Need to have a look at what's happening in the world before we see what's going to happen here in our future, because that's where our primary business came from. Secondary, it's to see how we can support each other locally. That's also definitely one of the priority points we all need to have a think about. And the third and most important thing is just to, keep it creative, stay at it, and stay positive in towards of actually getting the good message out there. And that's how we're going to keep ourselves attractive and ultimately still survive the whole thing. So I'm just I see I've been nominated to call time. We've got another couple of minutes left, but I definitely think it's been an absolutely brilliant start to opening up these platforms, because as Namibians always say, we make a plan. So I think the biggest plan we made here, Rupesh, thanks for doing this all and organizing it, is the fact that we can actually take hands and start communicating. And instead of just once they say just Rudy or pot, yes, we all need to take care of ourselves as well. But it's now the time to have a broader sight and broader look on other people as well and see how they are doing it. What are they doing? We're not reinventing the wheel here in terms of the industry. We're just faced with all our wheels have literally been ripped off for this year, at least so far. So now we need to see how we're going to put this puzzle back together again and then survive as a whole from there on out. So we're going to organize another session next week. Check out our Facebook page, check out the group and the WhatsApps and all that. And please, spread the word, get as many people involved as what we can so that we as Namibians can stand together and actually keep each other going, even if not on a monetary value, but even at least then on a supportive and spiritual method of just hearing people out, hearing what people are going through, what they're experiencing, what their thoughts are, and going out from there. So thanks for everybody that joined, and we can leave it now open for closing remarks, I think. If who else wants to say something or ask something.
Thank you,
no,
guys.
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say thank you for...
If we think of local tourism,
yeah.
we just keep in mind that we don't know yet what the school program for the rest of the year will be. That is also just thinking about if we want to attract local tourists, they might have kids, and we must think about that.
That's 100% right, Albie. Our school did release something today in terms of a more official guideline. I'm not going to mention it now because I actually want to just see that it sinks in and actually just comes through a few more channels before I can actually confirm it. So let's chat about that next week and see whether we have some more conclusive information there, because I think it was somebody that also said, take some time, switch off, don't. Everybody is able to become a COVID-19 professor if they actually allow themselves to be influenced by everything that's going on in social media, WhatsApp and whatever. And that's even something that I did. I took my phone and I said, stuff it. I'm going to go for a walk on the beach, or I'm going to sit and have a braai, or whatever the case might be, just so that I can get out of that negative loop, because it's a snowball effect that eventually happens. And then before you know it, you think the world's coming to an end. It's not. I'm going to call it, it's a shit time to be in at this point in time. Sorry for my French, but it's a reality we are faced with, and that's a reality we need to get through. And that's what we're going to be able to do together, just even if in spirit, but that's how we carry on. Ignore that. And Rupesh has done a heck of a lot of work to put in contacts and places and pages and so on where you can get the right info. And write the rest off as spam, because it's in any case a whole lot of BS that's being said there about what's happening where, and drink this and smoke more because that cures it, and a glass of whiskey a day will keep the doctor away, or whatever the case might be. I mean, it's insane. It's just absolutely insane. But that's literally what mass media is about, and social media, mass media, any of those types of medias. It's how the world gets controlled in terms of fear. What's the first thing you instill into a human being for not being able to do something? Make him scared crapless, and he will definitely stay at home or something like that. So keep that in mind and see how you can work around that. Think there outside the box about how you can sell a positive message in terms of, hey guys, it's not how we are. This is the measurements we've taken in place. This is what lodges are doing in terms of keeping healthy and clean and so on. The people want to feel safe. That's the key priority here. People want and will always want to feel safe in these times. And that's literally what we need to focus on. And actually, that's the message we need to send out. So yeah, from my side, thanks everybody. It was absolutely phenomenal. I look forward to doing this again.
Thank you, Harshu, and thank you, everyone. It was, I think it was great. And I think we will probably do another one on Monday evening as well. And just keep continuing. Anybody, I know there are a lot of people on Facebook listening, watching, and anybody who wants to join and have a few words to say, more than welcome to. And let's continue doing this. It brings out, it keeps people busy.
On that note, here's my glass of
and
grape
stay
juice.
home and stay safe.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, you
Bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good Friday.